Hey there, folks. Parker Thune of OUInsider.com alongside Coach Clinton, Bryan Clinton himself, recapping Oklahoma's 20-6 victory over the University of Cincinnati today. And first off, shout out to Cincinnati, Bryan, before we take it any further. We're sitting here in a lecture hall, in case you hadn't noticed, and that is because Nippert Stadium is quite literally built into Cincinnati's campus. The stadium is 50 feet that direction. And it's a very cool environment as a campus, and it's an awesome environment on a college football Saturday, Bryan. They made 40,000 people sound like 80,000.
It was incredibly loud, and having it built into the stadium, it was great. It was a fantastic atmosphere.
All in all, Cincinnati as a football destination gets a thumbs up from this crew. Obviously, absolutely. Oklahoma won't be back here, at least not in conference play. It's their final year in the Big 12. It's Cincinnati's first year in the Big 12. It's the only time that these two teams will meet as conference foes. But definitely one for the books today, certainly one for the books as far as defense is concerned for Oklahoma. And let's not bury the lead here. Brent Venables' unit was fantastic. Cincinnati had 376 total yards. That might be, you might find that pretty unbelievable, and that's because there are only 6 points on the board at the end of the evening. And it was a consistent case of the Oklahoma defense. And Brent Venables didn't want to call it bending but not breaking. He didn't want to categorize it as that in postgame. That's really what it felt like. There came a certain point on pretty much every single Bearcat drive where the Sooner defense basically said, nope, no further.
Yep. Well, and the thing is you look at it, they're 3 of 15 on third down, 1 of 4 on fourth down. So you saw them just buckle down in the red zone and really protect the end zones well. It was great. And obviously, when you can force field goal attempts, that's what you want as a defensive coordinator. So good stuff from the Sooners defense, and Danny Stutzman's a freak.
And we'll have a much more in-depth breakdown coming on the OU Insider on the Visor postgame podcast. But Bryan, just instant knee-jerk reaction on Dillon Gabriel's play today.
It was good. He was efficient. I did see some things in the first half that were a little uncharacteristic. He made some mistakes or things close to mistakes that we were really worried about. But at the end of the day, I was happy with how he threw the ball, and they really challenged Cincinnati downfield, which obviously really helped them get things going when they needed to. So good stuff from Dillon.
Nick Anderson finds the end zone again after the trifecta last week in Tulsa. So 4 touchdown receptions over the last 2 games for the redshirt freshman wideout. But I think the guy who really stole the show in the passing game today was Andrell Anthony. Bryan. He only caught 1 pass a year ago at Michigan, as hard as that may be to believe. He's looking like a superstar in this Oklahoma offense in 2023. And after the game, he told us, look, this is all I wanted when I came to Oklahoma was the opportunity to excel. He's been given it, and he's taken advantage of it.
Right, yeah. 7 catches, 117 yards today. He was exactly what everybody hoped he would be, and that's a downfield threat. So he's really starting to show himself as the go-to guy in the passing game, and it's really exciting for that offense because he's got speed and extra. So it's really good.
Now, you touched on the linebacker play, Danny Stutzman front and center and all that. Linebacker has been a strong suit for Oklahoma, but 2 true freshmen really standing out to me on the defensive side of the ball through 4 games. One of them is PJ Adibawara up front, and he got a lot of run in the second half of this game, a lot of run, and it was encouraging to see because one thing he does, and regardless of how much time he's given on the field, how many snaps he ends up accruing, whenever he's in the game, he's pressuring the quarterback. And you flip the page and you look at Peyton Bowen in the secondary, the instinctual play that he made at the end of the second quarter when Cincinnati's driving, has an opportunity to tie the game with a touchdown. They got a third down inside the Oklahoma 10, and obviously, I'm sure this is a play that we will review on the OU Insider under the Visor podcast, maybe on film study later in the week. But the play that Peyton Bowen defended, quite simply, was just a play that I have seen so many Oklahoma defensive backs try to defend over the last 5-6 years, and how many guys get mossed in that situation.
A lot of them. Not Peyton Bowen, obviously, in this situation, but it's great. And as you pointed out, those 2 guys, the impact that they're going to make going forward for Oklahoma, you saw glimpses of it today on the road in a hostile environment, and they lived up to the challenge. It was really, really promising. So
MVP of the day, who are you giving it to?
I'm going to go Anthony. I'm going to go Andrell Anthony. Yeah, I think giving him the credit is due because, look, there were times when the running game just wasn't working for Oklahoma, and when they needed a burst, when they needed something, they went to him, and I think that he had a really big impact.
And I would hand it to Danny Stutzman. I mean, the guy's an All-American through 4 games. There's no two ways about it. He is certainly in that conversation. And consistently excellent is what he's been over the first third of this 2023 campaign for the Sooners. Okay, Bryan, one positive takeaway and one thing you think the Sooners need to get right or figure out in advance of next weekend's matchup at home against Iowa State.
Well, I think the emphasis on third down is really what you have to look at. I've been so impressed with the defense on this on third down, and they've really buckled down. So to hold a team like Cincinnati with a quarterback of Emory Jones's pedigree that can really go and get those third downs, for them to do that was a big thing. So that's my positive. The negative, I'm still concerned about the Oklahoma running game. There's just not a lot of space right now for those guys, and whether it's they're trying to run outside or it just hasn't mattered to this point. When you have to turn to Dylan Gabriel to get that extra blocker in the box and fabricate runs, it's concerning. But obviously, this was a big front that they're playing. They're playing a really, really good defensive line from Cincinnati. So running game's got some work to do, but I think it'll be all right.
Definitely a much more climactic, much more encouraging start to conference play than the Sooners experienced a year ago. And this team has already gone where the 2022 team did not. They are 4-0. Of course, the 2022 team hit that wall after starting 3-0 in non-conference play. And we talked about how it looked different, Bryan. We talked about how this team's 3-0 start in 2023 just on paper looked better and looked more real than their start in 2022. But man, I really do think a win like this is just what the doctor ordered for Oklahoma, because it gives you faith that the defense has come a long way, right, and that some of the growth and improvement that we saw in non-conference play has now been validated with a very strong performance against a Power 5 opponent. So I don't know if everybody's going to agree with this, but from where I stand, I would much rather have seen Oklahoma win a 20-6 game today than a 52-41 game today.
Right.
So,
well, and last year you were 1-3 on the road in Big 12 play. So to come out and start 1-0, that's a big deal. I mean, you can't overlook that, especially in a place that was as hostile as Nippert Stadium ended up being. So.
They were resilient and they got the job done today. The Oklahoma Sooners are 4-0. Full reaction coming on the OUInsider under the Visor podcast, so stay tuned for that. For Bryan Clinton, I'm Parker Thune. We'll see you back in Norman.